So you guys know we're gonna live stream this tonight. We're gonna get home. Jump on later on YouTube. Later, not, it's not live right now. I just put it on. Say you did think from it. No, yeah. If anybody notices that computer is not doing that, just have me over and talk to the room. There's nothing crazy I can figure out. You can sit here, you're a babysitter. All right. You guys are ready? We're ready to get started. This is Wendy. She had contacted me about coming out and visiting with all of us, gave us a lot of information about fiber optic network that is being installed in the community. They're here to answer questions and give us information, and I will bring you over the floor.
Hi, thank you all for coming. Wendy Neal, I'm the sales executive with Medina Fiber. This is Lauren Fisher, who's also a sales executive, and then we brought Ryan Lynn, who is our construction manager for the company. Unfortunately, our boss had a funeral out of town, so he's not here. But we just wanted to come in and kind of give a little bit of explanation about what we are, what we stand for, how we're moving around your area. On your chair, you found a little bit of information about Medina Fiber, some pricings, some information, along with an informational card. If you fill out the information, what that does is allow us to email you as progression, the process of getting you installed when your area is ready for service. I'll send you an email just to inform you when it is available, and then you can either call the office if you want an installation, or we'll contact you via email. It doesn't tie you to anything, it just gives us some information in order for us to get a hold of you. So Medina Fiber is working off the backbone of Medina County Fiber, who services commercial buildings and large businesses. And we decided we wanted to come in and bring fiber to residential areas and those that in a more rural area that don't have an option other than maybe one provider. So we started building this infrastructure throughout Medina County, trying to get connectivity all the way around Medina. What that means too is we're a true fiber connection from beginning to end. Unlike coaxial cable, we're not affected by the weather. We do have symmetrical speed, so like for instance, say spectrum, you might be getting like a 200 or a 300 on a download speed, but then your upload is not symmetrical with coaxial cable, and maybe you're only getting a 910 on that upload. So with Medina Fiber, which is true fiber, your speeds are symmetrical, so it prevents that buffering and spin effect. The other great thing about Medina Fiber is everybody gets their own individual fiber line. They're not on a shared line, so when everyone gets home from school or work, things don't slow down because you're the only one on that line. Your speed will stay the same, no matter what speed you purchase. That is the speed tier that you'll have all the time. It's not a shared line. So Ryan is going to talk to you about where we are with things in the process of building out that infrastructure. I know there's different areas, different streets. We do have some information as to when they're supposed to start, but Ryan's going to explain that a little bit more. And then we'll take questions and answers, answer any questions you may have.
So, like we said, we are methodically moving through Chippewa, Lakes, Warrior Glens area right now. I know probably all of y'all have seen construction crews in your neighborhoods. I think we've covered all of Warrior Glens and Chippewa Lakes at this point. This one little piece up here at the top, we're still currently working, and we're still currently working in the main section here. we are almost ready to turn it on. We have our main feeder fiber at Kennard Road that, we hit some snags with CSX Railroad trying to get underneath their tracks. We have finally broken through them. We will be going underneath their tracks, Wednesday actually. So that will allow us to deploy more rapidly in some areas. This Warrior Glen section down here is done. This section right here is done. This section here is also done with the exception of this one little piece in the back. Does anybody live in this one little piece in the back that's here? Good.
I can't tell them.
What is that?
Yeah, people live there.
Is that the circle?
No, it's back.
I was like Lakeside Drive?
Yeah, usually after this lakeside.
Oh, okay. Old Park.
Okay. I'm
Yeah, people
happy.
live there.
Huh?
People do live there.
Well, yes, I was just asking about in this room. If so, I don't want to walk out. No, I'm just joking. But because there's a beautification going on with Medina, County Park District, down Big Indian Trail here, we were asked by the Medina County Park District to kind of stop in a way going down Big Indian Trail to feed this section of the back. So we were working through that with the park district. Obviously they don't want to go in and spend millions of dollars to make it look pretty, to make it look like a utility easement going down there. So we're gonna be working with them to find an alternative route to serve these people back here. We're almost there. There's some votes that have to go on, and, everybody here knows politics, you gotta do things the right way, right? So as soon as all that gets said and done, we will finish this one little section. But, I would say within the next month to month and a half, you'll be seeing Wendy and Lauren out there saying hi to everybody, letting y'all know that we are up and running.
So I dropped off, or we've been dropping off some little things with, just a little bit of information, letting you know we're coming. Putting our business cards on them to contact us with any questions you have, but I thought it'd be a good idea to hold a meeting, for you guys to ask questions or, try to answer anything that you may want to know. Like Ryan said, it will be a little bit before we actually have active service. But meanwhile, we can take information, get it in the computer, so when we actually get the area lit, then we are able to contact you to discuss an installation date for you. What does that mean? So when you have fiber to your neighborhood and we say, okay, you have active service, we contact you, we talk about an install date. What that involves is just basically, we're basically all underground, right? Okay. So when we call you to get you scheduled, what happens is like 3 to 5 days before your actual install date that we discuss, someone will be around the yard grabbing your individual fiber line out of those vaults that are flat to the ground. They put like a slice or a kind of fillet your grass, lay that line, and it folds your grass right over, about 6 to 10 inches deep. And then we normally run it over to the side of the house where the rest of your utilities or your power comes in. If there's a different area you would like that fiber line coming into, we can let them do whatever is gonna work for you. And then the day the installer would come into the home, grab that fiber line from the outside of the house, and he would hook it up to our router, get everything tested, make sure you're up and running, and then we tell you can go ahead and cancel your service with your previous provider. That way you do not go 1 day without internet service, okay? You guys have any questions? Yeah.
What's on the inside of the house? Anything inside?
So the outside of the house is gonna house a little box about 6 inches long that says Medina Fiber until the day of the install. The installer will come in, he'll drill a little tiny hole to grab that fiber line and pull it through the wall. He puts a real nice base plate on, the inside of the wall. And then the fiber is really small compared to coax or cable that you're used to seeing coming through. I mean, it's like, the size of a hair, but it's encased in some plastic. And then he'll hook it to, if you're using our premium Wi-Fi router, it does come with a ton of security and protection that all your Wi-Fi devices or smart devices would be secured through. It has an app that you would download on your phone so that you can monitor all your devices. It also has parental controls on it and has a guest Wi-Fi password, so you never have to give out your secured Wi-Fi pass for anybody that's coming to the home. And then it also enables us to tweak, diagnose, and upgrade that router right from the office in Seville. You can use your own router, but it has to be like at least a dual band and has to have a 1 gigabit port to support our fiber line, because fiber is way different than a coax or cable. We would then bring you a modem for free and hook it to the fiber and then to your router. But then if you ever have any issues, we can't look into the cloud to see what's going on because you're not plugged into our router so that we can see or monitor what's going on. Yeah.
I have an overhead loop with Spectrum right now, and you're gonna put an overhead loop at my house. You're gonna go up the pole. Does that loop stay there idle? How do you string your loop?
So the Spectrum loop would stay there idle. You have an option to call Spectrum and have them remove it. Typically, they will not. They will fight tooth and nail because if you're leaving as a customer, you know, that they look at it as if you ever sell your house, the next person who moves in, we don't have to do as much work to get them service if they decide to go with us.
So if it stays, do you have to have a certain separation?
Sorry, for the house drop, no. We can actually go, you know, run side by side, you know, we can even touch, you know, in there, so.
The other thing is, with my Spectrum, I have one cable going to my computer, another going underneath the siding, another cable going to my television set. Am I gonna have to rely on a Wi-Fi for all that now? How does that work?
So our router, if you're using ours, the modem and the router is combined into one. It's a commercial grade called a Calix GigaSpire U6X. And it has like 4 ports on the back of it that you can hardwire whatever you want into. We are usually just connect into it from our fiber. That'll allow you 3 more ports to do whatever you want. But your Wi-Fi system, our router will cover 2,500 square foot area. As long as they place it, you know, pretty much in a central located position so that that signal can get throughout the house. Yes, sir.
Right now, I have Spectrum cable, television, and phone line.
Okay.
The line comes in, the house is wired all over the place. Phone's over there, computers upstairs over there, television's over there. I've got extra connections in other rooms for cable that we don't use, but they're there. So you're gonna bring a cable in. How is it gonna get to surfacing all of that stuff?
Well, Wi-Fi is gonna be your connection, so everything that is run through the internet, you would just sign on to Medina Fiber, the Wi-Fi that's there. You can hardwire whatever you choose into that router, but just the one line coming in is gonna, you know, put it in a centrally located position. Your telephone, I don't know if you have a landline still.
We
Is
do.
that what you're saying? Okay.
So what my plan would be, I'm gonna keep Spectrum television and Spectrum phone, and I'm gonna use you as a replacement for Spectrum internet. But if I can't get your internet up to my computer, other than doing it by Wi-Fi, what's the connection?
So would you want the router to the Wi-Fi ran up to your office? Is that what you're asking?
How do you get that wire? I'm on a race lab foundation, there's no basement.
Okay.
My wife will never put up with a wire running
Do you
someplace.
already have a cord hooked from your computer down to where your router is now? Is that how you're?
Because the house was wired for cable and everything, I have, the router and the modem are upstairs. When the line comes up there, it splits in two. One line goes right to the computer, the other line goes to the modem, which then feeds the Wi-Fi connection. And then the telephone, has got a jack over there that ties into, the wiring that's already there. And there's no way to get wire invisibly to any of that stuff.
So we can put your router wherever you want it in your house. If you want it to be in the exact same spot as it was before, we can put it there.
Is that
and
router
then
tied to your wire,
It will be connected to our fiber, yeah.
your fiber?
Yeah.
So how do you
And
get,
then from our,
you're where I have my computer. I'm where you're bringing it into the house. How do you get it from here to you?
so if you want it hardwired, we have Ethernet cables that you can plug it into the back of the router and then you plug it into your computer and that will.
So I have to run an Ethernet
hardwired
cable
connection.
down a long hallway upstairs
Well,
to my computer?
Well, what I'm saying, you can put the router in the room that your computer is in. If that's where you choose to have it, we can put it wherever you want in your entire house. If you want it in the attic, we can put it in the attic. If you want it in your bathroom, we can
But
put it
I'm
in your
asking
bathroom.
how? There's a wire.
So-
How do I hide that wire?
do you have an attic in your house?
No.
Okay, so that would force us to run an exterior line. Now, we do try and hide the lines as best as we can. If you have a light colored house, then we use white lines. If you have a dark colored house, we'll use a black line. The line that we use is literally smaller than this line that's connecting these cameras to this computer. They hide very well. Not the ideal choice, but in some instances, that's the only way we can get a line into the house.
Yes.
I was gonna say, the wire that goes from the router is Cat 5, so it's Ethernet?
Yeah.
Okay, so he probably has Ethernet in his house anyways, right? And
Possibly.
Yes, sir.
Run me through once again how you're gonna go from the street into my house. Is it
Okay.
gonna be underground?
Yeah,
Overhead?
it'll be underground. So there's a vault somewhere out front of your house. And the underground crew comes about 3 to 5 days before your actual install date. They get one of those individual fiber lines out of that vault. And then they have this little machine that kind of like fillets the grass open, lays the fiber line 6 to 10 inches deep, folds the grass back over, and then it's normally carried over to the side of the house where the rest of your utilities and the car comes in. And then it'll be housed in a little box, folded up, waiting for your install date. When the installer will drill a little tiny hole, bring that fiber line through the house and put a faceplate on it.
How durable is this? Because I'm familiar with the fiber optic
Okay.
cable. How durable is this small pencil thin cable that's going to be running?
So it's very durable. It has limitations. If you take the wire, you kink it over on itself and keep pulling, it is a piece of glass. It will break. However, if you take it and you hold it straight on, and, that's why we pull the wires is, we hook something to the front end of the wire and pull the wires in. You could haul a freight train with it. Not necessarily it's going into your house, a little bit bigger one, right? But, they're made for durability. They don't just arbitrarily break.
How do you get underneath sidewalks when you're coming up from the street?
So our install crew they don't use the same machineries that my construction crews use, but typically what they will do is they'll dig a hole around the sidewalk on each side, and they'll use a flex bit, which is about 6 foot long, and they'll actually go underneath the sidewalk with it, get to the other side and put the wire on, and then just pull it back through that hole that they created.
I've got a nice stone wall in front of my property with, it was in there for many years ago. So the foundation's quite deep. It's a concrete drive right up against the house. They would have to have some masonry bits.
Absolutely. Is there anywhere around your house where that concrete wall stops?
Not currently.
Build an addition.
Being,
You got time, you got a couple weeks, build an addition.
is it inside of any kind of conduit so that in the future something needs to be done that it can do without having to tear everything out again?
So he's asking about the fiber line, is it in a conduit, is it just in, that plastic casing, the fiber line itself?
So the fiber of the street is in the conduit. The fiber that runs from the street to the home is what we call a rainberry. So we literally lay the fiber into, the fillet that Wendy keeps talking about. We can, splice that. So if you ever, let's say where we mounted the box on the side of the house, you wanted to add on to that side of the house, we could take that off, pull it back and reroute it and do a splice to be able to reroute it. But typically, yes, I mean, you will see there'll be a gray piece of conduit that comes up. That's just for protection for when you're weeding or you're mulching around the side of your house, just so you don't get a little shovel or weed or string. But beyond that, they'll bury that, 3-4 inches deep, at the side of your house. And beyond that, it literally goes to that conduit and then just in that trench.
Yes, sir.
If you wanted to put that in conduit instead of an open ditch, will you pay for that, or do we have to pay for that? How does that, can you do it?
I've never had anybody ask about putting in a conduit. I did have a customer that had a line that he laid that conduit himself, and he asked for that fiber line to be in that conduit where his other electrical line was, and they did do that for him, but that's not something that we would pay to have done. If you want to have conduit put in and you want it in there, or if you have existing conduit, they'll pull through it. I know they did for another customer, but it's not like something they do all the time. I mean, if you're on their business, yes.
Right now, I have my internet, my cable goes underneath the siding. I had my house re-sided so they hit it. If I want that fiber optic enter the same place, will you pay for the siding getting taken off and put back on? Will you do that, or do I have to do that?
So typically, we wouldn't pay to have it taken off, but there are ways that we can get it underneath the siding
All right.
without damaging the siding, so.
Yes.
You keep mentioning a router, is that a one-time purchase, or is it a rate on top of the per-month rate?
So right now, the commercial grade router that we have, they do not sell it to the public. So it is a fee of $7.99, with taxes $8.53 a month, yeah.
And then this Wi-Fi at $7.99 is on top of that?
No, so when I talk about premium Wi-Fi, that is our router with all that security and protection that is included in that price. Yes, sir.
Okay, now, you mentioned one burial depth, and that gentleman mentioned another burial depth. How deep is this conduit or this cable going? Because if it's only 3 or 4 inches, you're right smack in the middle of the burial zone for, the flower beds and plantings and things of that nature.
So whenever I was talking about the 3 to 4 inches depth, that was just for the conduit that protects the fiber. The fiber's actually 6 to 8 inches deep. And then that gray piece of conduit that we just run up to protect it from weeds and shovels, that will only go about 3 inches to 4 inches below the depth. But yeah, so the fiber will basically be 6 to 8 inches and then come up, and then that last 3 or 4 inches before it emerges out of the ground is where you see that gray conduit.
So what you're suggesting is that because it's only like 6 or 8 inches, you need to have it someplace where you're not going to be disturbing the ground by planting or anything of that nature.
Well, where he's talking about is usually up against the house
I
itself.
understand, but if the depth coming in is like 6 to 8 inches, okay, you generally plant that deep when you're planting around undergrowth and stuff. Okay,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
trees,
so,
trees and shrubs and things of that
yeah.
nature, you know, and granted, yeah, I'm that guy that's gonna go out there and I'm gonna mark it on my little diagram that says, hey, my internet cable is right here, don't dig here. But, you know, things happen. 6 to 8 inches doesn't seem to be very deep. Is that what all that's required by the law?
Yeah, and whenever you do get ready to start planting, if you call 811 to let them know, you know, call before you dig, we actually come out and we will mark these lines. We have our own locate division that will actually go out, hook up the lines, and trace the line so that you know exactly where it is, all the way through your yard, all the way up to the side of your house. So that way, that 6 to 8 inches, hopefully does not become an issue. Of course, if you're like mine, it'll be right where I want to put that maple tree. So, but, you know, there are other things that we can do to get around that. You know, if you talk to us, work with us, we can send a crew out, possibly move that line over a little bit so you can put that tree there.
I know when I talk to customers, I ask them, do you have a sprinkler system? Do you have an electric dog fence? So that you mark those. We do call 811 for all your other utilities to be marked. But if you say to me, well, I'd rather you come on the other side because I have a flower bed over there that I'm gonna have, the landscaping company coming out to do it, we'll put that line wherever you want it to go. You just gotta, you know, I usually ask, you know, this is what we do. Is this where you want it coming in or do you want it somewhere else? And then it's noted so that the underground crew is aware of where that needs to go. I've even told people, put some duct tape on your house where you want the nib, which is the box that stores the fiber, so that it's where you want it and it'll be done right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, so, oops, I cut the line, now what? Well, let's say I did, you know, I accidentally cut the line.
My question.
So we're notified, you're notified, and we'll be out there repaired for you.
Yeah, I mean, is a fee for that, or?
No.
No. And, could I have it not underground? Can I put it where the current spectrum line
So, do you happen to live in this area?
No.
Okay,
Most of us don't live in that area.
okay.
Most of us are at the top of that
Okay.
street.
So, yes, as long as your utility poles, right? So, I mean, it has to have something to support the line to go to the house.
Mhm.
But absolutely, I mean, if you said, hey, I want it in the air and there's utility poles out there, we can by all means take it from our boxes at the street, run over the pole, go with the pole, and then take it to the house.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have all these new lines down all the streets, and those who choose have another new line from the street to their house, right? So what's the repercussions if somebody rototills their line to the rest of the neighborhood, or the street line, what are the repercussions to the rest of the neighborhood?
Well, everybody has their own individual fiber line.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my question is, my line is hopefully not gonna hurt anybody else's if I decide to pull out a rototiller.
Yeah.
But if I go close to the street,
If you hit our line in the street with a rototiller, you're going way too deep.
Way too deep.
oh,
Our minimum depth on our construction side is 3 foot.
okay,
So as long
but
as you
the
are,
whole neighborhood would be out, right?
well, yes,
Okay.
if you manage to hit it at the street level, you know, the
I
neighborhood will go
think
down.
rototill allows that.
I assume your line's in the right of way, village right of way, so if you're out in village right of way and going deep like that, you're violating zoning.
Yeah, I'm just making up a story, trying to
Yeah.
figure out, trying to get the ramifications,
New
repercussions
mailbox,
of,
And
mailboxes.
there again, you know, hopefully you would call 811, like it's state law, to say, hey, I'm about to be digging in this area. And we would come out and we'd actually mark we mark every line, no matter what it is. If it's our main fiber runs, our fiber going up to individual houses, we mark every line that we can to protect our infrastructure, because obviously, if we protect our infrastructure, we're protecting our customers as well.
Well, since down here, we all have mailboxes out on the street, I'm assuming you're gonna have your line with the rest of the utilities in the yard more. It's not right there along the edge of the street, which is not a good spot to be, because some of our roads are gonna get widened once we get rid of Keith.
So it depends on where you are, and how much right of way we have. Now, if you live in an area that has a utility easement behind the right of way, then yes, we try everything we can to be with all the other utilities. So you'll see another box, right there in that area with your in-ground transformers and your spectrum boxes and all that. Some of the areas that we go into that have poles, depending on the right of way, we might have to be right there at the street because we don't have enough room. We aren't going to come into your property and trespass, if you will, on your private property just because we want to get away from the street. We're going to make sure that we're legally able to be where we are.
Down here, most of us do not, our property lines do not go out to the edge of the road. They stop short of the road by, in many cases, quite a bit. You'll see all of the mailboxes along the street, so you'll move your, you have to go running through all of those mailboxes.
Right.
And to reconfirm, I just have a quick question. All the boxes that you guys keep talking about, none of those are above ground, right? Everything's below the surface, so we won't see any utility boxes anywhere like you do in some other neighborhoods for other utilities.
Correct. There's only one place where our box is above ground, and it's our main junction point, which doesn't affect anybody in this room because it's out at Lake Road and Kennard Road.
Okay.
So, like, up that way somewhere. So yes.
Ours are all flat to
Yeah.
ground and they have like a little disc that says Medina Fiber. So you had a question, go ahead.
I think you've answered one of them, just my builder, my house is relatively new, put a conduit from the pole to the house. You will use that conduit if I would request.
Absolutely.
My second question is, I see you putting a lot of junction boxes in. And obviously, all those yards do not have service going to them, because you have to service all those. What determines where that box goes? Because I'm concerned my whole front yard is flower gardens and bushes. And if you dig a junction box, even though I don't have the service, you're gonna destroy my plants.
So we will do everything in our power not to destroy your plants. We don't like destroying anything. But our engineered design basically shows us where everything goes, that there is a logical order to it. We are putting a junction box every other property line pretty much. The reason why we do this is because if you live, well, and I'll show you why we do this. Oh. So, use these up here. So chances are we will have a main junction box somewhere on one of these two corners, and then we will come in and we will put a smaller box that we call a pull box in between these two houses. You couldn't tell today because it snowed, but when weather's nice, not a big issue installing a customer's drop to their house. But when you got to put snow on the ground, I can't go out here and I can't bore underneath this driveway to make it back to this main junction box. So that's the reason why we would want to, because we're having to cross this person's yard again. We have to cross this person's yard again. We only want to do is the least amount of damage as possible to anybody's yard. And, just because you sign up for service, Betty Joe next door doesn't want us going through their yard again and tearing their yard up. We understand that. So we put this junction box out here so we can run a drop to your house and pull through to this main junction box back here. That way, we're only coming through one time and disturbing people's property once versus multiple times over and over every time somebody signs up for service. And when it's winter, you can't really dig a whole lot around here in wintertime. So that gives us a point to pull from when it's winter so that we aren't leaving lines laying on top of the ground saying, we'll come back during the springtime and bury that, once it warms up and we can actually dig. So that's the reason why we place these junction boxes as much as we do is one, community involvement to get away from having to, tear up people's yards multiple times. And two, so that we don't have to leave your line laying on top of the ground whenever there's snow and ice on the ground.
So what you're saying to me, even though I don't want your service, I could have the junction box in my front yard.
Possibly.
But, it's up to the design team where they place them.
So the right of way, will there be a notification when they're
Flowers are in the right way.
what's that?
That's
So be careful.
I know that.
Right away, maybe between the two houses.
I have a couple of questions. You have 3 different levels of pricing and associated with speed. Can you give us any guidance on what
Sure.
a individual resident might
Sure.
select?
So that full gig, which is 1,000 by 1,000 speed, is really an abundance amount. If you have kids that are big gamers, that sucks a lot of broad bandwidth up. Most normal people do not need a full gig. 250 by 250 in a normal household, you've got maybe, you're streaming maybe 2-3 TVs, someone's on the internet, it will more than be adequate for what you need. People that work from home 24, every day, you got 2 people working from home, you got kids working at home, you might need a middle speed. But the average household can get by with 250 by 250s. It all depends on what you're using it for, how many devices you're using at one given time, determines what speed you actually need to choose.
Just for information, the typical household, even with 2 kids and 4 TVs and everything, stuff probably uses on the order of 150. So the 250 speed going in is gonna be more than the vast majority of us in this room are gonna need. If you need really high speed stuff, then this is a great way to go, but most of us, the entry level is all you need.
Yes.
And you can, I'd like to piggyback on you right quick. You can actually, at any point in time, if you said, hey, I want the 250, we come and install the 250, and say a week down the line, a month down the line, whatever, you can actually call us and say, hey, this 250 isn't cutting it, I'm, using way more than 250, so I like to bump my speed to 500. So there's, the only charge to that is the difference of the price. So it's not like we're gonna charge you to upgrade your service.
And they just toggle you up, they don't have to come to your house to do anything.
So how's the speed, it's the same line coming in, so how is the speed governed? For that?
That's through our back office systems.
Then, my last question was, your current provider, what difficulties do you have in eliminating it?
We always tell everybody, do not say anything into them until after we are in there and have you up and running. And then you go ahead and cancel with them. It's just a matter of canceling your service with them. They normally don't come out and take anything off your house or anything like that. If you have their equipment, they probably want their equipment back. But it's just a matter of calling them and telling them, underneath their service.
And they don't come and get your equipment, you have to take it to them and repair them.
Yes, ma'am.
So I was along with that, my husband and I go through live streaming, same household, obviously. So, are there like data caps, like if sometimes when we're live streaming, like your screen is gonna blur your colors, that's not gonna be a problem, like
Not at all. And there's no data cap, contract, installation costs. There only is if you have, if you're 300 feet or more than 300 feet from the road, they would either charge you a one-time installation cost, or you could sign into your contract, just because it's gonna take us, more of a line to get you, up and running.
That underground loop that's buried, if you dig into that, or somebody digs into it, who owns that? Do you own it, or do we own it?
So we own it.
So if somebody dug into it, who pays for it?
We would. So you just call us and say, hey, Betty Joe's planting a tree, a maple. I don't know if there's Betty Joe here, and I apologize. But she was outside planting a tree, she cutting the line, I need somebody to come back here. typically we'll get out there same day, get you a new line ran. It might be a temp line to get you back up and going, and then we'll have our drop bury crew come back out and bury it within a couple days of us actually laying it on top of the ground. We don't like to lay things on top of the ground because, like I said, fiber, although it is robust, it is delicate. So, if you catch it with a lawnmower, you aren't gonna have service anymore, right? And that goes with any line that's on top of the ground. So we're typically try to be very careful with our lines when we lay them and mark them. Obviously tell the homeowner, hey, we have this line out here. We'd like to come out here and see exactly where it is. We'll have it buried in the next couple of days. But yeah, so we would do all that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
The 250, if you get that, I see that the other one, the 500 has $7, 8-hour a month charge. Is it the same for the?
Yeah, so those two lower speeds, 250 by 250 and 500 by 500, on the brochure it indicates that you would get that premium Wi-Fi router for 3 months for free. After that, it would be an additional $8.53. So you would add whatever the price of the fiber, $49.99 or $79.99, and $8.53 to have that premium Wi-Fi with all the security protection and app you download on your phone.
But I don't have to use that, correct?
You do not.
I can use my own router.
You can use your own router, just like I said, it has to be at least a dual band and have a 1 gigabit port in order to support our fiber line. We bring the modem for free, hook our fiber line to it, and then hook the modem to your router. Yes, sir?
You show a streaming TV option here. Is that our Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that on that?
So we kind of teamed up with DirecTV via internet or stream. What that means is they are a streaming provider. They came out with a box called Gemini, which kind of gives you that look and feel of cable. It's a device that you purchase through them. We just kind of help you get signed up with it, if that's who you choose to be your streaming provider. We don't make that decision who you want. Netflix you pay on your own. People have Amazon Prime, you get that for free. Those are streaming providers, but somebody that wants that look and feel of cable, DirecTV via internet, has a box and a remote that you pay $120 for. It's yours to keep. It's kind of like a Google device in that you can talk to it, that remote, it can change your channel, it can record your channel. They have 4 different packages that you can choose for your television. But we're not tied with any streaming provider. You choose who you want as your provider. We will try to help you make a decision, but there's no tie with us, okay? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about, you installed already on my street, Bass Bay, and the yellow flags were there, but in my yard, there's like a circle of yellow flags. And then there's a yellow line that goes across the road, it's painted on the road, and then straight across from there is a yellow gas something. So all the other flags are gone, but this circle of flags is still in my yard. Can we take those out to mow, or why did they get left behind, or do you even know?
I couldn't answer that. So the yellow flags are for gas.
Right, I know that.
So let us know where the gas
But
is.
they were all mine, but this one section of my yard, it's got this whole bunch of them in a circle. But then you guys, I'm pretty sure it was you guys, maybe Stan painted a yellow line, kind of in line from where these flags are across the road. And then on the other side of the road is some kind of gas pole, like yellow.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Did they do that, or did you do that?
So they would have done it, so that's part of the 811 oops, call before you dig. So anything that is outside of orange would be the gas company, water company, power company. So let me look into that, because yes, if all other flags are gone, there should be no reason why the flags for the gas company still remain. So I will.
And that's the only place they were in a circle too, so there's like something in the yard.
That's what
And is it going to blow
intrigues
up?
me. Well, it shouldn't blow up. That's what intrigues me is when you say it's in a circle, I'm like, well,
Yes, I mean,
gas
you're like something.
typically runs pretty straight.
Yeah. Demo.
You guys are orange?
So all telecommunications are orange, so us, Spectrum, Frontier, we will all use orange and we will all use our own individual flags that will actually identify what orange paint you're looking at, so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've heard some rumors about guaranteed rates, for X number of years.
Yeah. So right now, and I don't know if this is gonna be forever, but, our rates are guaranteed until 2042. I do hear that it's gonna change. I don't know what the new rules are, or, the guarantees are, but, as soon as I know, I'll be able to let you know.
If I sign up for 250 today and then I want to switch to 1,000, do I get the 1,000 price that it is today, or do I get the 1,000 price of what it's going to be years from now?
Well, good question. Right now, when you sign up for the speed that you're at, you're guaranteed and grandfathered in to that 2042 rates.
They're kind of leaving us in the dark.
They are. They won't give us
What's in
a
your
definite
plan is
answer.
gonna-
Well, we all know that we will have much higher usage in the future with higher definition televisions and
Right, right.
everything else. And
Technology.
so, you might have a cheap rate today, but you might get.
Well, I don't think it's ever gonna be out of hand. The company that we work for, we try to be different from the other ones where every 6 months they're raising your rates and stuff like that. We're not gonna do that, I guarantee you that for sure. Yeah, so, yes, sir.
With the, streaming TV, do you need an additional box to go along with that, like?
So streaming TV is basically ran through your internet. Who you choose for your streaming provider is totally up to you. Streaming TV does not take a ton of bandwidth, usually about 8 megabits per second, and the lowest tier that we offer is 250. So it's not sucking up a lot of bandwidth for streaming TV. But you choose who you want to be your streaming provider. No box, it's just all Wi-Fi. Yes, sir?
Let's say we want to call you and we want to get service hooked up, kind of walk us through the lead time for that.
Sure. So it usually takes 8 business days for us to find an install date. Our install times run 8 in the morning, 10 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon. The install is actually in your house about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get everything's installed. But you're still with service. It's just a matter of him clicking that fiber into and connecting. So even while he's there doing his prep work, you still have internet service through your current provider that you have. And like I said, 3 to 5 days before your install date, the underground crew is coming to do their job, so that on the install date, everything is ready to go. So it's a pretty smooth process. Yes, sir.
There's a few people in here that aren't here in the winter.
Okay.
We shut the service off and turn it back on.
Sure. So what you do is you just call the office, customer service reps, do this all the time for people that go to Florida or whatever for the winter. You do not have to pay for your service. If you're using our router, the only thing you pay for is that router price. Other than that, and then you call us and let us know when you're back in town, and we'll flip you back on.
What does that do to that locked-in rate? Is it like shutting your service off and turning it on, or will that?
No,
2042
ma'am, whatever
rate's
you
still-
whatever you signed up for, that's what it's gonna say.
And also, my Spectrum is grounded. Does yours have a ground attached to it?
So we are, non-dielectric fiber, so there's no conductor inside of our fiber. So there's no need to be grounded.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, thank you guys, this is very, very helpful. Everybody in this room has a different setup, what they have from. Some people have YouTube TV, some people have Roku, some people have Spectrum and Roku, and it's all for their, TV viewing pleasure. You are providing internet, right? So whatever we already get through that you're using the internet for, like Roku needs the internet. Spectrum is the cable is so totally different, right? So we have to really understand, and I think because I'm over 70 years old, it's not as easy to get in my skull how but what we are really getting for this, and it is a replacement of our internet provider, right?
Yes, so, let me just tell you, we hold, streaming 101 classes at the demo center in Seville. There's a class, May 17th, it starts at 5:30, runs till about 6:30, 7 o'clock. And what we do is we explain streaming to you, what it means to you, how you do it. It's basically, we're trying to help you cut that cable cord, because that cable cord is affected by weather, number one. You have that buffering effect when you're using cable, because you don't have symmetrical speeds that we have with our internet service that we carry. And it's just, like, so we have this class, so we kind of explain what's a Roku, what's a Fire Stick, what's a smart TV, how do you stream your programs that you're used to. Who has, like, all my local channels, I need to see my 35819. How do I record my shows that I'm used to seeing? So we have a class that we actually teach that, and then there's also through Medina County, one of the guys that works for us, he's teaching at the local libraries. I know he's been to Lodi, I know there's some Medina, so you can check with your local libraries if you can't make it to one of our classes. But you call our office, that number is on that brochure, it's 330-366-2008. Call the customer service, let them know you want to sign up. You just come in, it's free, and we'll explain everything and answer questions kind of like we're doing tonight. Yes, sir.
What date did you say, 17?
17.
I'm not mistaken, they compress the signals on the bandwidth sometimes with cable. So you don't get the full quality image that you probably get from broadcast. So with your fiber, is that the case where you would get the best quality of a picture? Because I'm under the impression that cable does throttle back in a way.
So with that individual fiber line that we talk about, you're the only one on it, so whatever speed you get, you choose. And normally when they do speed tests, what you sign up for, you usually can dig a little even more. Because you're the only one on that line, nothing's ever toggled anyway. And it's just whatever you're using within your own home.
I'm just curious about you being direct buried 8 inches. Electric lines have to be buried 30, communication lines, I think 24, something like that. How come you guys get away with such a shallow depth?
So that's in the right of way. Once we actually go onto the private property, no, NESC code, still applies for electric, but, on private property, there's times where you'll see, in some areas, your coax cable line actually coming up over, and dipping back down into your ground. 6 to 8 inches is our minimum. So we don't want to set an expectation of, hey, we will be 24 inches in the ground at your house. 6 to 8 is our bare minimum. So there's highly likelihood, unless they encounter something they cannot overcome, tree roots that just, we will try and go around trees to avoid tree roots, stuff like that. If you're sitting on bedrock and the bedrock's, 6 inches down, obviously, we can only go as deep as bedrock. So like I said, the 6 to 8 is our bare minimum.
Yes, sir.
Maybe you can't even answer this question. What's your projection for completion of the county of all the lines being in and out?
2020.
In your area or in Medina County?
Medina County.
2027, is that what they were saying, Ryan?
As of right now.
What is it?
2027.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Our streets are very narrow. Are you running those orange conduits down each side or just one side and running under the street or the other side?
So we are running on both sides.
Wow.
Yes. But it goes back to, I worked for Comcast for 17 years in a previous life. Our status quo was to do exactly what you're saying of, just make one shot across the road and it's buried in everybody else's yards. Our CEO of our company, he has a mantra that he wants to be better than big cable, right? And that's one of the reasons why we do this. There's gonna be conduits out there that come off of our main junction box and go out, 2 and 3 parking lines that never ever get used. And, I don't want to be the guy that stands up here and, talk about how much money we're spending on this. We're spending a lot of money, right? And the reason why we're spending this money to have conduit inside of people's yards that might never be used is because we don't want to be the big cable company. We don't want to come back and have to just destroy somebody's yard over and over again, bury a drop for their next door neighbor. So that's the reason why we're doing it.
Speaking of the destroying of the yards, I did have a couple people come to me, not in our neighborhood here, but over in the Glens, where things are still unfinished. Their yards haven't been touched since the lines went through, and they really want to know when it's going to be cleaned up and put back the way it was before it was
So it's
touched.
funny you should ask that, because we are actually starting, so obviously during the winter, not a real good time to try to restore somebody's yard back to the way it used to be. We're gonna do our best to try and get it, leveled out so it's not a creeping hazard and whatnot. But, we've actually just sent out an email to all of our crews today, and of course, it snows today when we send out this email. But, hey, this is the beginning of the dig season where we need to start looking at restoration. So you should start seeing crews coming back, putting topsoil down around the boxes, throwing seed and straw, correcting any kind of issues. There'll be inevitably some settling issues where there'll be dips, correcting those, getting them back level ground. So here within the next, month, you should see stuff progressing to where you can't tell that we were tearing.
So on this side of the lake, since you guys are just digging now to put in those lines, we can be safe to say by June or July, when all the lines are done, our yards are going to be back to pretty much normal grass growing and all the good stuff.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say, where I'm at, you guys did a fantastic job.
Thanks.
Took care of my own parade.
Thanks. Yes.
Those are the ones I like to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done.
What would be a scenario that somebody would want to disconnect your service?
Moving, that's about it. And having fiber to your home actually increases the value of your home. People look for fiber because it is the way of the future. I mean, it's definitely, a lot of places don't have true fiber. There's other companies that are claiming to bring fiber, but what they have done is did like a hybrid. They don't have an infrastructure that we are building. All they're doing is bringing a fiber line from the road to your house. You're still on that shared line with those other 6-8 people. You're still toggled down because when everybody gets home, they're calling it fiber. And I have so many customers that stayed with their current provider who claimed to have fiber, and they actually said it's worse than their cable. And so they're switching over to true fiber because it's not comparable. It's really not. Yes.
On your map, we're off Chippewa Road, we're the westernmost street there, called Dean Lord, way up the top.
In the last street. Oh, no.
No. And Chippewa Lake, there you go.
Very
No.
last street.
There you go,
Last
right
street.
there.
That's lower Chippewa.
All right.
It's upper Chippewa.
So that's where we are. The question is, when would you expect that you would have our cable in there, our fiber in there?
So you should see crews in your area right now. So these red lines represent what we call fiber hoods. So each one of these boxes is one fiber hood. So we actually have crews in here right now digging the main infrastructure in. Right now, they're set to be done by the end of June. Now, with that said, we could finish early because they are busting it out. So, I would say worst case scenario by the end of June.
What are you considering the end of it? Because you haven't pointed to the last 3 streets on the top of that map, and that's where our friends here are curious, because that's where they live. And there are no yellow flags, there's no digging, there's nothing going on those last 3 streets.
You talking about these over here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yes, that's where we are currently working. That all falls into the same fiber hood. We try to be respectful with our locates. We call in about 1,000 foot at a time. So you will see where, you'll see one street that gets, flagged, and then you'll, depending on the way the crews are working, you might see that this street gets overstepped and goes to another street. It's not that we let you out, it's not that we forgot about you. We will cover every single street inside that red box.
How do I mark my storm sewer line? Because I'm gonna guess that might interfere with your main line down the side of the road. So how do I mark that as far as the?
So if you know where it is, you can either, one, wait until we get there and catch one of our construction managers, because we have construction managers that oversee the crews. Or if you have just generic flags, you can put some flags down through there and just write storm sewer on it. That way that tells us, hey, be careful through here.
And then the building itself, we have 12 security cameras inside out. We've got all the Nest thermostats and smoke detectors and Wi-Fi in the building. The owls operating, we have a lot of problems during our meetings with stuff crashing, because we currently have Spectrum. 250, 500 for the building.
We're running on 59 tonight. I did a speed test before we started this evening.
What was your speed?
59.
59 for
Yes.
a download?
Yeah,
Oh my lord.
right.
You're probably looking at about 9 uploads, I'd say, to 12.
It was a 9.
Most of us don't care
Yeah.
about upload.
So,
You could always try, I mean, you try 250, but it sounds like you have a lot of devices running, in the building you're talking about.
It's this.
Oh, this is the one you're talking about. Well, you can always try 250, it depends on how much you're using at one time. If you need to bump up to 500 by 500, you can do it, but I know I'm not an overseller. I basically say, go for this, and if you think you need more, then we'll get you some more. Anybody else?
Who actually owns Medina Fiber?
So we, the history about this is, there's like 4 people that used to work for a telecom company, and they decided they didn't like the way the big companies ran. And the CEO decided he wanted to have his own company. So they talked to Dave Carrata at Medina County Fiber. This is probably 5 years ago. They were trying to get a partnership to see if we could work off the backbone, paying Medina County Fiber to start this. And they ended up getting private, financial backers to start this process. But we've grown so much, and we have so many different companies now, like Brownsville, Texas, our goal is to get to the underserved. Brownsville, Texas, York, PA, we already have new companies in those. Avon, Hudson.
So is it just a bunch of individuals? I mean, like Medina County itself doesn't own any part of this?
No, so it's just individuals.
I
We're
think
a
it was
little
the
more
first meeting, you
background.
brought a county commissioner with you to your first meeting.
Yes.
So we're working with Medina County.
I was just wondering who was paying for all this. I mean, you have a lot of crews that are working all over the county. Obviously, you're planning on making money, you wouldn't be spending this much, and I just wondered who's benefiting by all this?
So we are funded by private equity.
Yeah.
So, obviously, as you just said, we're in business to make money.
Right.
We don't want to be, our CEO's mindset is not to be the big conglomerate, and one of those things that goes along with that, fiber has been around since 1964. Been very expensive up until, it's still very expensive, but relatively speaking compared to then. Spectrum that y'all all probably have has had the opportunity to upgrade their systems to give you the latest and greatest of what you deserve. They don't want to do it. They're happy taking your money every single month and giving you a hybrid coaxial plant to, live and die by. After she said something, I just ran a speed test here because I'm on the network. We're at 75 megabits download and 7 megabits upload. A typical Zoom call takes 12 megabits in each direction to work efficiently. So you can even put a Zoom call here right now with your camera on and be efficient.
There's gonna be something rotten with this building if that's the speed you're getting, because my Spectrum cable at home is almost always above 350. So I'm not sure why you're not getting above 350 download here.
I don't know, the Alps dropped 2 weeks ago during our meeting. They just completely shut off the
Not
dial.
symmetrical when you're dealing with coax and cable. I mean, and you're on shared lines with people, so it all depends on the area where you're at. I mean, sure, if nobody else is in your area, then you might have a great speed, but if you're in a shared area, you get whatever you get.
So I saw you raise your hand earlier on. Did you have a question or?
No, I've got a statement for it.
Well,
You probably don't hear it too often, but the fellas that come out and do the digging, they work great. They probably are getting paid half of what they're worth.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well, they do a good job, they represent the company well.
That is awesome to hear. And, any feedback from tonight will go directly back to them because these are things that we like to hear.
So those are subcontractors that we've hired. They're not part of Medina Fiber. They're subcontractors, but they are super hard workers. They are.
So I was gonna ask, I'm on the south side of that, I'm down by the Glens, and I know you've gone across the other side of the road. You said you're gonna be on both sides of the roads, so you're gonna be digging on both sides. And I know that I already want this over Spectrum, so how do I sign up tonight?
So I don't know if you received one of these
I
on your
did not,
chair.
I walked into
Okay,
it.
I'll make sure you get one. So this little card, if you guys could just fill it out, it gives information for us so that we can put you in a computer in order to, get you signed up. We'll just call you basically and say, hey, your area is lit. Are you interested in signing up? This card doesn't tie you to anything. It just gives us some information to contact you.
And
So
if you've
that
already signed up online, you don't have to do it
if you
again.
sign up online, you don't have to do it. Yeah, if you've already went to our website, you don't have to, but
Yeah, because I went to your Seville site down there earlier, and they said that because it's not lit on my side,
yeah.
that I can't really sign up yet.
Well, I can't give you an install date,
Right.
is what we're talking about. But if you just give us some information, we load you in the system, and then we'll be able to contact you. Okay? Yes.
The ballpark is like if you decided tonight you wanted to install a 3 weeks, a month, 6 weeks.
So if you're in some certain areas, and it's looking like June, there is some areas that is supposed to be May. So we're waiting on this railroad thing, it kind of slowed things down a little bit, so our projected to be lit is not quite where it should be, but it sounds like we just got an okay, so I'm hoping it's gonna be sooner than later, so in the next couple months for sure.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
I just want to tell everyone, we have fiber in Florida and it's 100% better than anything too.
Yeah, it's amazing. You guys won't believe it.
And it's cheap.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about the router.
Okay.
Once the fiber optic is into the house, and you go to the router, how is the durability of the router? And you say that when the initial installation is made, that you get the router, what happens after? If for some odd reason, the router breaks down, is the next one gonna cost me?
No, so if you sign up and you're using our premium Wi-Fi, that is upgraded, like They do upgrades all the time, like from 2 to 5 in the morning while you're sleeping. Most people are sleeping. That's when they do their upgrades to that router. It's just all in the cloud. They do things to it. If there's ever anything wrong, you call the customer service, or we have a line for tech support. They look into the cloud, see what's going on. They can tell you how much light you're getting to it, if there's an issue with any of the devices that you're running, and they're able to tweak, diagnose, or do whatever they need to. And we stand by it, so, yes, ma'am.
Is your Wi-Fi Belgian spectrum?
Oh, yeah, I mean.
We have down here right now.
Okay, so, I mean, I guess the great thing about our router is all the security and protection that comes along with it, and the ability for us to help you if something isn't right. When you're using your own equipment, there's only so many things we can do to try to fix things, because we can't see into it like you can if you're using our equipment. I mean, you're more than welcome to use your own, but we will, like, you call technical support, they'll try to diagnose what's going on with you, but without being able to look into the cloud to see what is actually going on. I mean, they will do a truck roll, but if you're not using our equipment and it's not from the line into the house, you know, they might charge you a truck roll to come out and check out your equipment. I do know that some people have used their own equipment. It's real important to do an upgrade or an update on your router, because when you're bringing that fiber line in, it's totally different than what, you know, you used to. So they tell you should do an update on your router that you're using. Yes, sir.
So do you run fiber right to your router, or a Cat 5e cable from that box to the router?
Yeah, so the router that we're using, if you're using ours, the modem and the router is all connected to one. So that fiber line runs directly into that. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have the option of purchasing that router, or do you have to rent it?
Not right now, because it's a commercial grade, and the company that we purchase it from does not sell it to the public. Yes, sir.
Just to go back to what you were saying earlier, you said that they will be on both sides, crews will be on both sides of the road. I know my yard hasn't been hit yet, so I'm trying to just, see it.
You gonna be here for a minute?
Yeah.
I'll get with you
All right.
right after.
Sure.
Find out exactly where you are.
Okay.
Get your address.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I don't know if you can answer this or if you want to answer it, or if anybody here objects to me answering the question, because I don't live here, I live in the country. But I'm sure we're gonna talk to
He
the
lives.
resident.
Okay.
We were in Florida, came back, I see this box in my living room. It's plugged into a wall outlet. I was told Armstrong put that there in all the apartments. That's all I know about it. Can you explain anything about that?
So while you were gone, Armstrong came in and put a box in your house?
Yeah, they're the providers for the internet and television.
And are they supposedly got you on their, fiber?
It's supposed to be fiber, but that's all I know about it.
I had a lot of, well, I'll just tell you my experience. Actually shutting people off if they did not go to their fiber. I had customers that weren't gonna go with us. They didn't like the fact that Armstrong was telling them you had to get their fiber. And they would call and said, they just turned me off because I refused to have it. So we had to have them call and say, we'll sign up for your fiber. And then get an install date before their install date so that they didn't have to use them. But they were doing some pretty sneaky things, or attaching things to the house without even notifying the customer. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so in your situation, did you say you lived in an apartment?
Yeah.
Okay, so more than likely what has transpired is your apartment complex probably has a exclusivity deal with Armstrong. And whenever they made the switch, Armstrong went to your apartment complex and said, okay, in order for us to provide fiber, we've got to turn off the coax, which means we got to go into each house or each unit and take out our coaxial equipment and put in our fiber equipment. my opinion, not the right move, right? I mean, one, we're going into somebody's house and not giving them the option, that's just no way, not look, I'm sorry.
But what is that box that's in there? Is that sort of like a router?
More than likely, that is, either it's gonna be a router combination or just an ONT, which just stands for an optical network terminal, which is basically what the light hits at the end of the fiber, and it transitions everything over to a usable signal for your computers, your TVs, etc.
Okay.
Yeah, for those that don't have Wi-Fi, so your router can connect through the fiber optic, and then you have Ethernet, so that Cat 5, right? Does that slow down the internet speed?
I'm sorry.
Does Cat 5 slow down the internet in the house?
No, and I say that with, in air quotes. Depends on how long Cat 5 lines are. You have Cat 6E now also. So Cat 5, I think it's 500 feet before you see it breaking service. So it can push a 1 gig service up to 500 feet. If you have anything over 500 feet, then you will see some slowdown in it. And then, like I said, Cat 6E, the new wave, everybody has to upgrade. So, that will allow you to do a lot more over that, Cat 6E fiber per copper.
Okay, anybody else, any questions? So, like I said, I just want to remind you all, May 17th is a 101 screening class. Anybody interested, call the office number, they'll sign you up. I think we usually have, I know there's room for about 20, we had 22 one Wednesday, it's pretty full, but we always have one every month. If you can't make the 17th, there'll be one in June also, okay? It's at 5:30, usually lasts till about 6:30, going on 7, depends on how many questions people have. After the presentation, we take questions and try to answer any questions they have on the screen.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. We appreciate you being here. Happy you got our number, so call. Anybody have any cards? I know.
Thank you. I did, but it doesn't post like, put a sign on the door.